Welcome to All About the Experiences. I can barely contain myself at the excitement of today's guest. Today's guest is a former writer for Saturday Night Live and The Last OG. He currently writes for The Last Man Standing and the reboot of the 80s classic sitcom Punky Brewster. As an actor, he has appeared on a myriad of different shows like The Mindy Project, Two Broke Girls, and Key and Peele, just to name a few. He has a recurring role on Community as Dean Spreck. As a voice actor, his body of work is expansive. And most notably, his work on South Park and American Dad has been just absolutely awesome. He is an alum of the Groundlings, which is the home of one of the leading improv training programs in the country. Here is where he founded the long-running improv show, The Black Version. Because I can no longer contain my excitement, I am pleased to welcome actor, producer, writer, director, and my family and my friend, Jordan Black. Welcome to Jordan. Welcome to All About the Experiences. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh my goodness. I look, this is long overdue. So I'm excited. This today is long overdue, but let's just jump into stuff because I know that you have a lot of things going on right now. And I'm just excited to hear about it. Great. I have to first ask, when is the Black Version coming back? I know we're in the midst of COVID, but you tell me, when are we going to get another taste of the Black Version?
I do not. It might have to be a Zoom Black Version at this point. I think, not to be pessimistic, but I think it's going to be a while before you have 100 people sitting in a theater again together to watch a comedy show.
I totally get it.
Yeah. And this is our 10-year anniversary, so I was planning on having a big party, a big celebration.
Well, if you need a party planner, where to come.
Right. So now it looks like we'll be doing the 11-year celebration probably next year.
Hey, it's nothing wrong with that. It's a celebration nonetheless. I mean, the Black Version, I have to tell all of my listeners, I know right now, currently, he's in a hiatus because of COVID, but let me tell you, it is one of the most amazing comedic improv shows that you'll ever get to see. I have gone several times, and I have to tell you, each and every time that I've gone has been uniquely different, and I left in stitches. Like, my stomach hurt so bad, I felt like, okay, I could do this instead of crunches. So, because I was laughing so hard, but an amazing show that you have, an amazing cast that you have. If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about the Black Version.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, for those who don't know, the Black Version is an improv show that we perform at Groundlings and at Largo and different places. And we performed it all over the country and Canada. We've been to Canada a couple times. But the premise of the show is you get, it's a live theater show and it's all improv, and you get a suggestion from the audience of the title of a real movie like Titanic or Star Wars or whatever. And then we improvise the Black version of that show. And we have an all-Black cast of improvisers who perform in it.
Absolutely. Just tell me a little bit, what inspired you to do, I don't think I've ever asked you this, but what inspired you to create the Black Version?
I always had the idea in the back of my mind to do an improv show with an all-Black cast, because for those of you who know improv, you know that it's a very white art form. So generally when you're Black or Hispanic or any kind of ethnicity, you're usually the only one on stage. Mm-hmm. And so over the years of doing it and performing, particularly at Groundlings, every once in a while I'd meet another improviser of color, another Black improviser. And at a certain point I realized that I knew enough good Black improvisers that we had enough people to do a show. So I just wanted to do a show. And I got the idea to do this this premise. It just sort of came to me because I just needed to come up with something that we were going to do as an improv show. And there's an improv game where even with a white cast, where you just say, oh, we'll do our version of Dirty Dancing or whatever. And that'll be our that'll be our long form improv show tonight. So I said, well, we'll do a long form thing and we'll do it based on a movie, because then that's an easy story to follow and we'll just improvise our way through it. And then I was like, yeah, we'll just do the Black version of it. I was like, oh, that's great. And we'll call it the Black version. So it was just that simple. And I didn't think anybody would care, because, most people don't care about improv. I didn't think anybody would care. And, but the minute that the show was announced, people just went crazy trying to get tickets and all that. Part of that was our cast. We had a really great cast.
An amazing cast. Do you want to share your cast members?
Well, our very first show, it was me, Key and Peele, Cedric Yarbrough from Reno 911, right. Anthony Williams from Everything, Phil Lamar from Everything, Danielle Gaither. Yeah, it was all of us. I think that's 7. It was the 7 of us. And Danielle's from Mad TV, Phil's from Mad TV. But yeah, so that was our original cast, which of course, all those guys are great heavy hitters. That's why I asked them to do it. And this was before Key and Peele was a television show. So this was, years ago. And now we still do the show, on a regular basis. Right. Not Key and Peele, because they're off being superstars now. But the rest of us still do it. And they've come back from time to time to guest in the show. So that was really it. Just having all these friends who I wanted to hang out with, truly, because we don't usually get a chance to work together. Because like I said, in the industry that we're in, a lot of time, unfortunately, there's a lot of tokenism. So if I'm in the cast, that means Gary Anthony Williams isn't in the cast, because we got our Black guy. So I was doing something where we could all get together, because of that, we don't even get to hang out, because usually you're hanging out at work, on set, backstage.
Right.
So, and I remember we've had a lot of guest stars too. So I remember the first time Wayne Brady did it. And
I had the opportunity to meet when I came to your show. Right. And that was so awesome. I really appreciate you affording me that opportunity.
Of course, anytime. And I just remember Wayne saying that exact thing about how what he loves about doing the show, and he's done it several times, is that, growing up in this business, you're usually the only one. He said, and that's his opportunity, where you're with all these really good Black improvisers, because you have to be really good to be the only one. You always have to be the best and be better than everybody else. No shade to the other people we were performing with, but
of course,
you have to be bigger and better because that's just, we talk about systemic racism. It's just real. And, but to get all those people who had to be great on their own together on one stage, it's just an explosion of talent.
Well, you guys certainly are the cream of the crop. I can tell you that. And I was in a fortunate position because of our connection and our relation, that I was able to come behind the scenes and just to see the camaraderie that's between all of you. And then just the talent, the spontaneity of improv is so amazing. And just how in sync you guys all are is just something else. And you can tell that the energy and the synergy between you all, it comes across on the stage, and it's amazing. It's truly amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, we just performed right before the pandemic. We had been invited to perform, and we did at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. And that one, we did 2 shows there. They were sold out. They did really well. And they already invited us back next year to do a run. So
I'm coming to that one. Okay.
Please. So hopefully the pandemic will be over by then, and we'll be able to return and do more shows there. And if people want to know more about the Black version, or be up on the schedule, because we do plan to travel to different cities we get invited to, and you can go to our website, theblackversion.com, and just join our mailing list, and you'll get the emails.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you mentioned about the Kennedy Center, because that was, I was definitely trying to make it to that performance. I was in Florida when especially on that specific day, and it was crazy getting out of there. And that was a sign of things to come, unfortunately. But I have to ask you, even with everything that's going on with COVID-19, how has that affected the industry from your perspective?
Oh, it's affected a lot. Pretty much shut the industry down completely as far as production. People aren't really filming. There's a little bit that was starting to slowly creep back up, but our governor just yesterday said shut everything back down again. Down. Fortunately for me, because I'm staffed writing on a show right now, writing is continuing because you can continue to write, because we write just like this over Zoom, from our home offices. And so I'm in a fortunate position that I'm able to continue working because, most actors, directors, people like that, they're not able to work right now because production has been shut down. So hopefully it won't be much longer, but it is a issue for our industry.
In light of all the things that are going on, do you get inspired by these? I mean, they say that a lot of times when you're addressing sensitive topics, as we all know, there's a lot of sensitive topics that are going on. You mentioned one, systemic racism. I won't even say, but the number 45 and the decisions that he's making that it's impacting our country. Are these things that inspire you in your creativity in the different shows that you write for and even for your own show?
Yeah, I mean, my writing has always leaned towards social commentary anyway. I mean, my comedy always has. I mean, you can see that in the Black version and anything else pretty much I do. And definitely my writing leans towards that. When I'm staffed on someone else's show, I pick and choose the moments for that. But there usually are opportunities to address certain things, on any given show. And I have had that opportunity, but some shows you can do it more, some shows less. But like right now I'm on Last Man Standing, and that show is very political because our main character is a Republican or a right-wing character. So we write about politics and things like that and address, we get an opportunity to address things, like that from both sides.
Certainly. I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because I'm thinking often when writers are writing, and I mean, we get all the barrel laughs and everything, but when you're coming up with material for these different characters that may not be a representation of you, where do you get that from? Where does that come from?
I think it just comes from your imagination. It comes from observing just the life outside of your own window, your life experiences. I mean, as a Black writer, I think we have an advantage in that we know the Black experience, but we also know the white experience, because you can't be Black in America and not know the white experience. So we actually can write. I feel like we have an advantage writing because we kind of know all the stuff that they've experienced because we grew up watching the same movies and TV shows that they watch. Right. Whereas as a Black person, white people haven't necessarily had those experiences. They haven't been to the places I've been and had the experiences in Black communities that I've been, or even watched the Black shows and Black movies that Black people all can, quote and recite. So I think it gives us an advantage to, in that situation, in that sense.
Very well said. And it gives me a different perspective to look at things too, but you're absolutely correct. I think about right now with the racial climate that's going on in the United States, and tell me how that inspires you through your comedy or through improv to bring light to these situations, because I know that you're very conscious and you're definitely right in the thick of things and trying to bring about awareness. But what are you doing specifically from the standpoint of your Black version show, and how do you bring awareness in that realm?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because some people hear about the Black version and who haven't seen it, and they'll go like, it's just gonna be a bunch of Black people up there playing stereotypes. And it's like, yes, there's some of that. It's because that's funny to me.
It is. It's hilarious.
But it's definitely a lot deeper than that. And it's a, what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's subversive. Yes. So the presentation is subversive in the sense that we're going to do the Black version of Titanic. People go, oh, okay, I know what those jokes are. It's going to be funny and the boat going to sink and all that. It's going they can't swim and all, you know what I mean? Like, yes, all those jokes will be in there. But really, between me and my cast, we're also educating our audience, because it's improv. So our audience is majority white, but we're educating our audience on the Black experience past the stereotypes that they know about. Right. We get an opportunity to really educate them, and in a comedic way, and while they're laughing. But we do. I mean, they'll make the audience yells out suggestions throughout the show, what they want to see, and some of the suggestions they yell out are just like real ignorant, but because they don't really know better, honestly. And so, but that gives us a chance. I actually like that because it gives us a chance to address it. And then that audience or that person who yelled it out will never make that mistake again, because they've been informed of, oh, that's not how that actually works. So that's what I love most about our show, is that it is subversive, and it's not preachy. We're not there to preach or any of that, but just the fact of what we're doing. I say to people all the time, they'll say like, oh, what if you run out of movies? Like, because we've been doing the show for so long, and we try not to repeat movies we've already done. So, well, what happens if you run out of movies? I said, the day that they don't make enough white movies for us to say we're going to do the black version of it is a good day. Put us out of business, please, Hollywood.
There you go. That means that we have definitely there's a lot of more collaboration, and you see that, you know, you're absolutely correct.
So for me, it's also saying that, you know, that there's an endless supply of movies that have no diversity, that have no cultural significance as far as black people are concerned, that we can mock that and make fun of that, and hopefully at a certain point kind of make Hollywood ashamed of that fact that we can just keep doing this forever because y'all keep making these, you know, super non-diverse movies.
Right.
You know?
Right. Let me ask you this, because as you can see, All About the Experiences launched just over a month ago now. And this is my 5th show, and I'm so thankful to have you here with me. But I know that you also have a podcast, and I believe it's The Hills of Baldwin.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me how that came about.
That's on Audible. So you have to purchase it on Audible, or if you have Audible, you can listen to it on Audible if you have an Audible account. It came about, I think, I had done some stuff for them in the past, like as a guest on someone's podcast. Okay. And then a producer from Audible reached out to me and said, hey, if you ever have any ideas for podcasts, he told me they were doing more narrative type comedy stuff they were looking to do. Mm-hmm. Meaning not interviews, but like stories and characters. And,
right.
And so I pitched to him this idea about a black soap opera called The Hills of Baldwin. Baldwin Hills is a very wealthy black neighborhood here in Los Angeles.
Absolutely.
And some people call it the Black Beverly Hills.
The Black Beverly Hills.
And it's a very nice neighborhood. So I decided we'll do a soap opera. In soap operas, everybody's always rich. So I was like, so let's find some rich black people in LA. And I said, so it'd be Baldwin Hills. It could also be Ladera Heights. That's also a very wealthy.
There you go.
But I did Baldwin Hills because I just like that it had hills in the name, because then it sort of like, you know.
Then you know it's rich.
Then you know it's rich because you're in the hills. And so it was great because I used the cast of the black version. All the cast of the black version are in it, and Wayne Brady guests in it, and Vivica Fox narrates it.
Oh, Auntie Viv is in there.
She's the narrator, and it is, if I say so myself, and we improvised it. Like, I wrote up outlines and storylines,
right?
And then the cast and I got together in the studio, and we just improvised all the dialogue. And I have to tell you, and I'm not tooting my own horn, it's hilarious. It is so funny because those guys are all so funny. Like, they just kill me. Like, Cedric Yarbrough's character, one of his main characters, we all play several different characters. One of his main characters is this doctor, you know, because you have to have a hospital because of General Hospital. I grew up on soap operas, first of all.
Same. What was your favorite soap opera growing up?
Well, General Hospital, Luke and Laura, all day. Okay,
there you go.
But it was all ABC soap operas, only ABC. One Life to Live.
One Life to Live.
And General Hospital. That was my jam. Edge of Night, when it was still on, it was really good, but then they canceled. So anyway, there's a little peek inside my history.
I love it.
He played this character who's a doctor, and he's so stupid and dumb, and he wants to be a rapper, and it's just so funny. And there's just a lot of really great stuff in it. Now you got me excited. I'm gonna have to go back and re-listen to it.
And is it an ongoing series, or is it?
No, we did one season of it. We did one season of the whole story. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, obviously you work with a great cast wherever you are, but definitely your cast on the black version, and obviously it sounds like on the Hills of Baldwin, are amazing. Mm-hmm. But I have to ask you, what is it like being a writer for like a show like Saturday Night Live or The Last OG, which I love that series, and even The Last Man Standing that you're currently writing on?
You know, it's interesting because when I was writing Saturday Night Live, which was 15 years ago now, wow. I was so focused on my acting career that I couldn't really take in like, oh, I'm a writer on this show, because I was still so focused on like, I'm writing, it's a job, I'm making some money, I'm in New York, I love New York, but really I got to get back to my acting career. So my experience there was really like I was like there but not there.
Gotcha.
Like I wasn't really focused on like this Saturday Night Live and I'm a writer. I was just sort of like trying to learn the job, and you know, it wasn't my first writing.
Humble. You're humble. There was a humbling experience, and you're hungry. Is that the better term to say? You were hungry and you were still going for it. Yeah.
I was definitely hungry as an actor, and I definitely wanted to write a Saturday Night Live because it was Saturday Night Live, and but my perspective then is so different from my perspective now. But what I will say about my experience Saturday Night Live is that what was great about it is it was the first job I had in entertainment where I didn't have to explain to people what the show was or what channel it was on. You know, like I'd acted in a lot of stuff and I'd written on some things, but they were almost always brand new shows.
Right.
And so it was always like, oh, I'm on this show. Oh, what's that? It's a TV show. Where is it? It's on WB. I don't get that channel. Yes, you do. You get that channel. You know, like,
you're like, you got to look in your TV guide. You got it.
Like but then when it's Saturday Night Live, you go, oh, what are you working on? I'm working on Saturday Night Live. You don't have to say nothing else. They're like, oh, okay, I know that. I know when it comes on Saturday night.
Right.
It was great to work on something that had cultural relevance, meaning the shows we're making, people are going to be talking about on Monday. So that was my first time having that experience. Okay. Last OG, you know, cut to, you know, probably at that point, 13 years later.
Right.
When I wrote on that show, and that was my first time going back to, I worked on this show called Uncle Buck at ABC.
Oh, I remember Uncle Buck.
With Mike Epps.
Yes.
I wrote on that show, and that was my first writing gig I took after like a 10-year hiatus of not writing and only acting. And I got offered that job because friends of mine were producing it, and they asked me to come in and write. And so I was very reluctant because I was just like, you know, thinking about my experience writing in the past and really wanted to be focused on my acting career. But I said yes because these were friends of mine. I knew it would be fun hanging out with them every day.
Certainly.
And then I had so much fun writing and realized that because of the experience I'd had as an actor, and at that point I'd been directing, and I was always writing my own stuff and developing my own material.
Right.
That I realized I actually had a lot to offer in the writer's room in a way that I didn't feel like I did when I was younger. Okay. And so after that, I really got serious and said, let me start looking for more writing opportunities. And my next one was Last OG. And what was really special about The Last OG was, I love the show. Like I started season 2.
I love the show.
Yeah, it's a great show. And yes. I started on season 2 and I had watched season 1 and thought it was brilliant. I was like, I don't even know why they want to hire another writer because they just do whatever they did last season because this show's perfect. But I'm going to take the job.
Right.
But so when I started there, what was really special is we had an all-black writer's room. We had one white writer and we had everybody else was black. And it was like, it's kind of unexplainable how special it was. And we all knew it. We all could feel it. Like on day 1, our first day, we're just like, yes, this is, because none of us, again, is that it was the tokenism and having to be the best. So most of us were used to being one or maybe one of 2 black people in a writer's room. And all of a sudden we're in a writer's room where our boss is a black man, all the writers are black men and women. And we had our one white writer who we was nice to. And, but it was a really, really rare and special thing. And we all still keep in touch. We still keep our text chain going and we all keep in touch with each other because we know how special what we had was.
Absolutely. And you have to feel so connected to that because I share that same sentiment. In my line of work, a lot of times I am the only one. And a lot of people ask me, well, does that bother you? And I'm like, it doesn't bother me in the sense that I feel like an outlier per se, but it does bother me that I don't see more diversity, amongst, I do a myriad of different things, but as far as event planning or even in my day job as an executive assistant, you want to look around and see that diversity. Yeah. And so if I can add to that in some way or, kind of pave the path, then absolutely. And you certainly have done that. I have to ask you this because I've always wondered this. I have to say, whenever I see you on television, and you don't tell me all the things that you do, but I'll look up and I'll see you on a Southwest Airlines commercial or, a commercial about cell phones or something. And I'm just like, Jordan Black. And I get so excited. And it's amazing because I see you as you, but then I also see you as this amazing actor that is so versatile. But since we were talking about the writing, let me ask you this. where does the material come from? Is it come from your like everyday life interactions, or is this something that you guys all, when you're sitting in a room, and this is how I'm imagining this is happening because I have watched The Devil Wears Prada, but like when you're sitting around, is it like, do you already kind of have an idea of what you're going for, what the storyline is going to be, and then you just kind of write from that perspective? Or do you bring in those ideas to kind of build what the episode is going to be about? How does that process work?
It depends on the writer's room because everybody has a different process, but my experience has been, in general, what happens is we'll get together as a group, and some people may have a bunch of ideas for episodes that they want to pitch, or pieces of an idea that, is this something that could turn into an episode? And other people may not do that. They may just be listening and saying, oh, okay, because you said that, it gave me this idea, maybe this is an episode, or maybe I put this idea you just gave me, spark something that can now help make your idea into a fully fleshed episode. So it really depends on, every writer's process is different. For me personally, my ideas do come from my life, or conversation. Like I'll be having a conversation with someone, most time it's my wife, having a conversation, and I'll think to myself, oh, that's funny. That's really funny. Oh, I got to do something with that, and it might just be like a little kernel of an idea. But like, if I play with it a bit, or work on it a bit, or just write it down and leave it there and come back to it later, because maybe some more ideas for it will come to me. A lot of times for me, I'll, if I'm on, like on a show like Last Man, we get together in our room and we just start talking about episode ideas. What we'll talk about for that show specifically, because this is its 9th season. So we are in a very blessed position that we don't have a lot of pressure, like from network and studio or anyone, because the show is a proven success. So once you're a proven success, you can tell everybody to get out of your way. So what we've done, or what my bosses usually do, is we come in and we have a seasonal arc for our characters. Meaning, this season, what we're looking at is we want these two characters to sort of go on this journey, these two characters go on that journey, and the show as a whole will be going on this journey. And then after we have that, then it's then we'll figure out what the stories, the episodes are within that help us tell the story of those journees. And not all shows do that. So
let me ask this, because you just said something that kind of sparked something for me, because a lot of times when we're listening or we're viewing our favorite show and we're thinking that characters are going to go a certain direction and you guys try to play up to that, and then you go somewhere completely different. Do you guys do that on purpose? Because we're sitting there like, no, we want to see them together. We want to see them ride off into the sunset together. Is that intentional?
A lot of times it is. I mean, in good writing, it is. I mean, in bad writing, it can just be an accident because it got away from us and we don't know, Like, but the main thing, like for me as a writer, one thing that is a pet peeve of mine is letting the audience get ahead of you. Meaning, you know how many times we all do. We watch a TV show and you know exactly where it's going. Now, sometimes that's okay. You're like, I know where this is going, but I like where it's going, so I'm gonna watch it.
Right.
For me, I don't, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what I don't like is if it's something that the audience shouldn't be ahead of you. If you're saying like these characters are on this journey and we don't know where it's gonna go, but we kind of know, so it's okay. Then you want to switch it. As soon as you say, let's say if it's Ross and Rachel.
Yes.
And we all want Ross and Rachel to be together, of course. Right. But then once they're together, then what are you watching every week for? Ross and Rachel together, I'm happy, so I can go watch something else now. So what you do is you get them close, and you go, oh, finally they're together. It's like, oh man, he married somebody else. Mm-hmm. Now, and she was just about to go tell him she was in love with him.
Right.
And then you go like, well, I got to see what happens, because when he find out she's in love with him, he's gonna be mad that he married this, So it keeps you involved in the story. That's where you want your audience to not know, like, he got married, so I guess it's over between him and Rachel. So now I'm thinking that. So now as a writer, I have the good fortune to be able to plan out these characters' journeys without the audience knowing where we're going anymore, because they did not expect Ross to get married. They thought, no, Ross is gonna marry Rachel, and that's gonna be the show. And it's like, oh no, Ross married somebody else again.
That reminds me of like Different World when Dwayne Wayne and Whitley, we kept seeing them come, like when you said that, it made me think of them immediately. They would come together and come apart and come together. And then finally, when they did, we were rooting for them. And then
Yeah.
of course they had their journey into that relationship, the discovery. So yeah, now I'm getting it. I'm getting it
I
now.
mean, you don't want to betray your audience and promise them something and not pay it off, but you also don't want you don't want to be so predictable
Right.
that the audience can say and figure out in the first 5 minutes
What's going to
how this is going to end.
Right.
That's what you don't want, you know? And that's hard to achieve in sitcoms, particularly successful sitcoms, because at a certain point, you know the characters, you know kind of how they operate in life and kind of what's true for them and how they would react in a situation. So it makes it hard. That's why a lot of shows, you know, they don't get better with time, they get worse with time, because it's a struggle to continue to surprise the audience, because now we know these characters and we kind of know what their sort of their desires are, what their dreams are, and how they react in a given situation. So it's constantly trying. But I would say that when you create a strong foundation for your characters and for your show, like a Seinfeld, then you don't have that issue, because you've created these characters that from the beginning the audience could never predict what they would do in a given situation.
Seriously. And you know, it's so funny that you mentioned Seinfeld. I am like a huge Seinfeld. Everybody is always surprised at that. I celebrate Festivus. I do. I've done it. I'm serious. I've done it at all of my jobs. I've had some sort of Festivus celebration. Love the show. And even my All About the Experiences, my brand is kind of loosely based off of it, because it's all of my experiences. There's nothing that's necessarily in a box or anything. It's everything about nothing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes so much comes out of that, you know. I'm glad you kind of mentioned that too, because I wanted to ask you, like, as a writer, what is your working relationship with the actors that are taking all of your material and bringing it to life? What do you have, like a direct connection or relationship with them, or do they come to you and say, hey, what if we could do this, or do they give their input as well, or how does that work?
Well, I'll tell you, it's different on every show, depending on how the powers that be on that show want it to operate. So like if my boss, for example, if my boss didn't want the writers on set, then we're not going to be on set. Or if Tim Allen said, I don't want the writers on set, then we're not going to be on set. And some shows are like that, where the writers aren't on set, you know, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just whatever works to help keep the show moving. Right. On Last Man Standing, we are on set for tapings. And again, like I said, Last Man is a well-oiled machine, so there's not a lot to do for most of the staff, because we're taping that show, we get in, we get out, and we're done, and we go home. But when it's your episode that week that you've written, then you're on set all week with the actors. And so they do come to you and say like, hey, I'm struggling with this scene or with this line, and what do you think? And, you know, I was thinking about this, and what do you think? And we work together to make the actors happy so they can get the scene and get what they kind of want. It doesn't mean that the actors always, like if the actor asks for a change, sometimes they get that change, sometimes they don't. Right. Because it'll undo something else later in the show or whatever. Right. And then sometimes they get the change because they're right. You know, it's like, oh, I see what you mean here. So it is very collaborative, which I love. I love collaboration.
Do you tap into that side, since you are an actor and you are a writer? Do you have to flip back and forth between the two when you're coming up with material?
It's not flipping. It's using all the tools in your toolbox at any given time. So I feel it's an advantage when I'm talking to actors, because I know how to talk to actors, because I know how I want to be talked to when I'm on set as an actor, which is very respectfully, you know, and to be, and when you have concerns or whatever, you want them to be taken seriously. Doesn't mean you're correct in whatever your concern is, but it should still be treated with respect, because generally the actors know who their characters are and kind of what their characters do, and like I said, it's a collaboration. It's not a dictatorship. In some moments it needs to be a dictatorship, and that's a good thing, but it doesn't always have to be. So I use when I'm in the writer's room, I will speak from the point of view of things I've learned as an actor on set. Like
Okay.
with dialogue, I'll try to explain, you know, like a lot of writers have not acted. So sometimes I like, if there's a joke, I'll try to explain like, we got to do less words in the setup because the actors are going to, you know, as an actor, the actor's going to read this part. They're not going to know that they're going to this part. And so if you, and hopefully this makes sense, but if you shorten it, truncate it, it'll be a lot quicker for the actor to get, because a lot of times I'm talking about like, I should back up. If we're doing a cold reading, like a table read, then the actors a lot of time aren't super familiar with the script at that point. They may have read it once, but they might have missed some things. So it's like, if you just put this in it, they'll get it immediately. Or if you give them a little what's called a reader, like something in front of it that says, you know, like angry, sad, just give them a little something to help them, then the joke will work. But if they're confused when they're reading or they don't read it correctly, then we've lost the joke and we've lost that moment in the table read in front of our bosses, our studio and network bosses, where we want all those laughs. So let's not take any risks. So those are things I think as a writer are helpful when I'm in the room to help make sure that the script is written for actors, not for readers. A lot of times writers write for reading. And without taking into consideration, someone's got to say this out loud and it's got to be funny.
And you have to take into account the physicality of it as well, right? Okay.
Well, I mean, you do, but I'm specifically talking about like a table read, the first read, which is very important. Like that's the one where if it tanks, you're in trouble. Right. So it's like an audition for the studio and the network. And so it's just a thing of trying to give yourself the best opportunity you can to succeed. And like I said, a lot of writers write for the page and they don't take into consideration that an actor has to read this. And if it's a cold read, then a lot of times the actor won't get exactly what's going on until they get to the end of the sentence or whatever it is.
You're like, oh, okay.
Right, and then it's like, but then it's too late, the moment is passed.
Right,
so,
right.
Once you're on set and you're working on it and you're rehearsing it, you can do all that and you can fix all that. But that first read, when you're really trying to like make sure it kills, for the actors as well, because they'll go, oh, this doesn't feel funny to me. And it's like, well, you didn't read it right because it's this. They're like, and it's too late then. You can't explain it after, like, if you got to explain the joke, then it's probably not funny.
Got it. Let me ask you this. What was your most nerve-wracking table read that you've ever done?
That's a hard question because I don't really get nervous at table reads. Table reads.
You are truly a natural. I just have to say this. I mean, I know you personally, but I've also seen you work professionally, and you are so cool, calm, and collected, and naturally funny. It's not. I mean, you're naturally funny. It's not even funny, but it's true. You are so funny. Thank you.
Well, a lot of the cool and calm and collected comes from experience. I've been in this business a very long time. So I'm past the newbie stage of like, oh my God, are they going to fire me? I'm way past that.
You're like, I got a show. If they fire me, I got a show.
But let me just clarify. When you say nervous, do you mean as an actor at a table read or as a writer?
As an actor at it. I'm sorry, as an actor at a table read.
The most nervous, I have gotten a little nervous at table reads because as a guest star, you can get fired after a table read.
Oh.
Like that's a common thing. And I've been a guest star a lot on sitcoms. And you always hear the stories about, it's very common. So you're like, all I'm thinking is my first line out, I got to get a big laugh. That's what I know. Because that'll buy me some time if a couple of more don't. Because here's the thing, I know I'm funny.
You are.
But if the writing isn't there and I can't make it funny, that's not my fault. But that's not what the people who are casting the show, from the producers, the studio network, they're not thinking that. They're just thinking, he's not funny. They're panicked that their episode isn't working, the show isn't working. So let's get rid of him. At least we have that control. We can get rid of the guy that didn't get any laughs and start over. So I make sure that I get some good laughs at that table no matter what. I'm looking at, because sometimes I'll look at the script and go, this is not funny. And then I say, well, Jordan, you better get to work because you want this job. So you better figure something out. And I'll be reading that thing all upside down and sideways going, I know it's something funny in it and I'm going to pull it out. and I usually am able to do that, thank God. And that comes from improv training and experience and all of that and performing a lot live. And so I'm prepared to You know,
You're always ready, Jordan.
That's every comedian's job, though. You gotta, you know, you can't complain. Like at the Groundlings, sometimes people come off stage and they say like, "Oh, this audience is dead. They don't like anything," and I'm like, well, you gotta then be so funny that even in front of a dead audience, they laugh. Because I promise you, they're gonna laugh at something tonight. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Like, so why are they laughing? You know, and some audiences are dead, but they laugh sometimes. And I'm like, so that was so funny that even that audience laughed. You should want to be that good. So even if when I'm on set and a script is terrible, I look at that as a challenge to me. Like, well, are you good enough to make something terrible good? Because if you're not, you should get that good. Aspire to that. You know, don't complain and say, oh, the script isn't funny or the audience sucks. And all. No, be funnier. You know, Dave Chappelle can go in front of the deadest audience in the world. And I promise you, he gonna get at least some laughs. He gonna get some laughs.
Yes.
So I don't want to hear it, you know. I've seen a lot of movies where you go, this script is terrible, you know, that Jim Carrey is doing, but he is funny as hell and I'm rolling. And this is not a good script and this is not a good movie, but I can't stop laughing. And that's Jim Carrey, that's Will Ferrell. You know, like certain people, you can put them in anything and you gonna laugh. Eddie Murphy, put him in anything. Eddie Murphy been in a lot of bad movies, but I promise you he's funny. You know what I mean?
He's funny. For sure.
And that to me is what separates, you know, the best people from the mediocre.
Well, let me ask you that. You threw some names out there. Who inspires you?
Oh, well, Richard Pryor. That's my godfather.
I used to sneak down into I'll never forget this, at my grandmother's house in Oakland on 67th Avenue. We found some records and we would sneak down there, and that's how I learned how to curse.
Yeah. Well, you know, my thing about Richard Pryor is that's an education. You in school, you listen to Richard Pryor.
Absolutely.
That is a university. You should get a degree for sitting at the feet of Richard Pryor. And I'm not talking about comedians or comedians.
Life.
As a human being, you need to listen to Richard Pryor because his stuff, even today, if you listen to it, because I go back all the time and re-listen to it.
Right.
It is relevant. Like it looks like he read this morning's newspaper. Everything he's talking about. Right. You just take out Jimmy Carter and you put in Donald Trump or whatever. It's exactly what's happening in the world right now. And that's every era. Every time I've listened to it, it's like, oh, this is from right now. So he's brilliant. So he definitely had a huge impact on me at a very young age. And then after that, I mean, the list is long. Like Eddie Murphy was definitely my number 2. Okay. He had a huge, I just did Eddie Murphy for the first, like, from the age of 15 to the age of 27, all my comedy was just doing Eddie Murphy.
I love it.
And I didn't even know it sometimes. I'd be watching an old Eddie Murphy movie and go, oh, that's where I got that from. I thought that was my bit. I was like, and then like,
I'm owning this.
Then like after Eddie, like, you know, I was a big Martin fan from the Martin Show. These are people who influenced me. Like I would, you know, Will Smith, you know, from Fresh Prince, because he was really funny on that and really great. And I still think he's really funny. Really great comic actor. And then, you know, Seinfeld, you know, I love Seinfeld. You know, of course, The Cosby Show, A Different World. You know, Bill Cosby, The Cosby Show was a huge influence on me. I wasn't a fan of Bill Cosby's stand-up because I didn't grow up listening to it, so I wasn't aware of it. Right. But his show, I mean, it had a huge influence on all of America. Everybody was watching it and loving it, in spite of his horrible behavior.
Yes.
You know? But I didn't know that then.
Right.
That show also, like, it kind of gave me an idea of what Black comedy could be and what Black art could accomplish with that show, because it was funny, also smart, also aspirational, and so that had a huge impact on me. But at my core, it's Eddie and Richard.
And Richard.
Yeah.
Well, not bad inspiration there, sir. Those are, yeah, I can remember. I'm telling you, being down in that basement and listening and standing up and trying to mimic that, and then this is you're gonna laugh. And I think I may have shared this story with you before, but imagine getting called up in the front of the church to say the children's prayer, and you decide you're gonna do your comic stand-up that you learned down in the basement.
Wait, what age?
I was like 7 or 8 years old.
Well, because you know the thing about that is nobody's mad at you. They're looking at your parents.
They're looking at my parents. And of course, this is my mother. Oh Lord, right. This is not happening.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it was better than the week before when they had me come up and do the prayer, and then I decided to tell all the family business in my prayer to make sure everybody got right
Lord,
that week.
please help my mama to drink less wine, Jesus.
Right.
And
It's not really grape juice.
please have my mama, at least come home and check on us on the weekend, because we be scared.
We gotta wait for the knock twice. It was like, or was it ring twice, hang up and call back? Yeah, yeah. Been there, done that.
Right. Oh, that's so funny.
Well,
Yeah.
let me ask you this, like, just because we're talking about childhood experiences, do you bring some of your childhood experiences into your comedy as an actor?
All of it. I mean, 90%, probably 99% of all my comedy comes from what things I did and experienced and saw in my childhood. I have 3 older brothers, so all we did was try to make each other, when we weren't trying to murder each other, we were cracking each other up. So I was
Right.
always trying to make them laugh, I was, because I was a ham and I was the baby. So I was always trying to get everybody's
Yeah.
attention. I am the baby, I should say. I'm still the baby.
Still the baby.
Not in my house right now, I'm not the baby. My wife is the baby.
There's
But when I go to my mama's house, I'm still the baby. But so like all my characters I do are generally my mother's male friends when I was growing up.
okay.
Like I thought they were the coolest black dudes in the world. What's up, little brother? What's up, man? How you doing?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I just thought, and they were, this was the 70s, late 70s, and they'd have on their denim cap. I could still picture it. And they were on in their Crown Royal bag.
That was my first purse, was a Crown Royal bag.
And that was my first, I'm going to keep my pennies in something bag.
But look, I wanted to take it to church with me, and they were like, no, Shay, you couldn't take that.
But those were all the things that I draw from in my comedy still. When I'm at my heart, when I'm writing what I want to do, performing what I want to do,
right.
It's just the stuff I did. Like people say, oh, you're so funny on stage, all that. I'm saying, all that's just the stuff I did at home when I was a kid, period. That's all I did. All those characters, all those bits is just the stuff I did for my brothers growing up.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I have been thoroughly entertained and subjected to your comedy. Even when we're just sitting around, just kind of shooting the stuff, it's just like, you are just a naturally funny person. And even when we're talking about serious topics and it can be intense, but then you bring light to the situation. And they always say through comedy or in tragedy, you can find some sort of silver lining, if you will. And so you definitely bring that comedic therapy, if you will.
Well, I will say this for just a little behind the scenes look at comedy for people who may not know this, but when you get around a lot of comics and comedians together, there is no such thing as a topic that's too dark to find something funny in. So, you could be getting together with your comedy friends to, on 9/11.
So you guys don't say it's not too soon, not too soon. You guys don't say that, or?
There's no such thing as too soon.
Okay.
When you're just with comedians. Like everything is game. I'm going to get, and it's really a race to the bottom. Like, who's going to get there first and find the funny in this? Like,
Right.
That's why, like, if you ever go to like a comedian's funeral and people are getting up and talking to other comedians, they're just being funny. Gotcha. The whole time, everybody's up there there's tears and all that, but people are cracking each other up because that's just the way our brains think,
Absolutely.
Anytime someone's sharing something sad with me or tragic, my mind, even if it's tragic to me, my mind can't help but think like, if I said this right now, like,
right.
I'm not going to, I won't say it, but I'm gonna save it.
Right. You're like, I'm gonna put this in the bag, in my Crown Royal bag.
Or like, this would be inappropriate because it's not my mama. So if it was my mama, I'd say this, but it's not my mama, so I'm gonna be quiet.
Oh my goodness, yes. I thought about this even when my mom passed away, and you and Sharita came to the house to help me. And I, like you said, you find light in everything. I was just like, I almost died of a heart attack, and people are like, what are you saying? And I'm like, my mom would have thought that was hilarious, even though we were there to mourn her. She would have thought it was absolutely Shay, not too soon, but up about it,
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. Well, I do want to ask you this. Like, I've asked you what inspired you as a writer and definitely as an actor, But when you're thinking about coming up with your own, producing your own projects, if you will, what inspires you to keep going when you hit roadblocks? Because I know that the entertainment industry is not an easy industry, for one, to get into, but even it sounds like even once you're in there, you're constantly having to prove yourself and, you know, remain relevant.
I will say this to anybody who wants to be in entertainment, and it's an industry that I love and I highly recommend it. But you have to come into it with realistic expectations, and that does not mean you limit your expectations. You can be Tom Cruise, you can be Will Smith, you can be whatever you want to be. You really can achieve it. But rejection is something you're going to experience a lot of, and that's even at those levels. Those people, the Will Smiths of the world, the biggest movie stars of the world, they still experience rejection every time they open a movie and it bombs. That's personal. It feels personal.
Yeah.
When you try to get them, every actor just about has a project that they have been trying to get made forever, no matter how big a star they are, that nobody thinks is, worth it, that they don't think can make money, so they can't get it made, and they have to deal with rejection after rejection, year after year. So for me, the way I deal with is I know Jesus, so that helps.
Amen.
And that's a big part of it. But also, I came into this industry knowing that rejection was going to be a part of it, and I told myself I would not let rejection run me out this business. And because I believed that if I stuck to it, and this is based on things I heard successful people say when I was in school and knowing I wanted to be an actor when I was a kid. I would read, a lot of things that actors would say or interviews or whatever, and I would try to take it all in. And I heard at least one or two actors who were very successful say, if you don't quit, you'll make it. And I said, I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to believe that, and that's what I'm going to do.
I think that should be something that's played across everybody, whether it's in acting or not, because if you don't quit, you're still in the game.
You will, and it's the truth. And other thing I tell people is, it doesn't matter if for show business, even as an actor, definitely as a writer, it doesn't matter what you look like or whatever. But it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, how talented you are, or how untalented you are. You can do well in this business. Arnold Schwarzenegger cannot act. He can barely pronounce words in English, and he is a movie star. And he was the governor of California, and he was married to a Kennedy, and he had an outside baby with the maid. Wow.
With the maid.
So I'm saying you can do whatever you want to do if you want to do it.
Boss moves right there.
I don't recommend having an outside baby with the maid while you're married to a Kennedy in the house. Right. But if you want to be a movie star, you can be a movie star. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, you black or you fat or you old. None of that matters. Because was it Morgan Freeman? He was acting for a long time before he became a star. And when he became a star, he did this movie that a lot of people still haven't seen, but it's a great movie called Street Smart. And he got nominated for an Oscar for it. And that's what finally launched his career. And he started getting a lot of movie parts. He was 50.
Wow.
He was 50. Now, I knew him as Easy Rider when he was younger. Right. Easy Reader on Electric Company. That's the only thing I'd ever seen him in. Then I saw him play this pimp on Street Smart. I was like, Easy Reader is mean. But he was good in that part.
Right.
And then that launched his career. So don't let nobody tell you, YouTube, anything. If you want to be an actor, you put the time in. You put the work in. You don't take no for an answer. You accept rejection. If you cry, you cry. That's okay. I cry sometimes. You be sad. I was sad sometimes.
What is this salty discharge coming from my eyes?
But you do get stronger. And then eventually, I've been in this business a long time. I know for a fact you don't have to be talented to work, because I know too many untalented people who make millions of dollars. People I've known who didn't have a dime in their pocket. They weren't the smartest person. They weren't the most talented person. And they're millionaires and they're movie stars and all of that. And so, yes, you can do it. Just bide your time. While you're waiting, be doing the work. Be doing theater, be writing, short films, whatever you got to do, your YouTube videos, whatever you have to do, you do that. And eventually, I promise you, somebody's going to pay you a lot of money to do it.
And let me ask you this. Are you ever too old to start in this?
No, of course not. No. Look at us, look at the Golden Girls show, like Estelle Getty, even though she was the youngest of all the Golden Girls.
I know.
She was an older woman. I'd never seen her in my life before that, you know?
Right.
And there's so yeah, you're never too old. So they need old people on TV shows and movies all the time.
For
So,
sure.
So yeah.
Especially since we're living longer, huh?
Thank God. Well, we'll see how this pandemic pans out.
Right.
I told you comedians find comedy in everything.
Well, we need to, especially during all of this. As we start to wind down, I want to ask you, just because you brought up COVID again, I mean, we're living it. Just the fact that we're not able to do this interview in person is evident of that. What are the things that you have found the easiest to pivot in the wake of COVID and the most difficult?
You mean work-wise?
Work-wise. One of each.
Well, work-wise, being a writer is easy because we just need a laptop.
Gotcha.
And with technology, we can all, Zoom together, so it's just like being in the room together. There's really no difference except I gotta make my own lunch. I can't order in and have the show pay for it. I don't appreciate that.
You don't expense it?
I'm not having a whole lot. Where I live, we don't have good restaurants. So I'm just gonna say I won't say the name of my town.
Right.
No shade, but it's only chains out here, and I don't want that food. I want that food. But no, they have not offered to expense it. So that's very easy. But the difficult part, which is what we talked about, is I can't do improv shows, which I love. That's really my first love, is live theater, improv. So I can't do that. So that's, very tragic for me. Life-wise.
And for us too, because I absolutely enjoy every performance I've ever been at.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Life-wise, I think I'm doing okay because I'm kind of a homebody anyway. And if I wasn't stuck in the house and life was as usual, I'm usually in my car so much, because LA is such a terrible town to drive in because everything's so far away. So, I'm kind of liking being at home. I can't say my wife is liking having me home all day, but that's her problem.
It's an adjustment, okay?
It's an adjustment.
It's an adjustment, because it's an adjustment here in my home too.
Of course. Everybody's going through it. I'm like, just wait it out. You ain't got to get no divorce. Please, as soon as COVID is over, y'all can take a separate vacation and then come back together. We just had a baby, and we have a foster.
Congratulations.
We have 2 babies in the house. So, and here's the thing. I'll just say this, and then I'll let you go.
No.
We have 2 babies in our house because we have a 6-month-old that we're fostering, that we've been fostering since he was born. And then we have our baby girl that was born 7 weeks ago.
Yes.
Now, this is how COVID really messed us up. Because our plan was, we had it planned out. We had the whole thing mapped out, because we're an older couple. So, we're kind of okay. So we don't have to worry about, how we're going to pay for this baby and all that.
Y'all doing real good.
We're doing okay. So we were just like, please, my mama going to come for 2 weeks. Then your sister going to come for 2 weeks. Then your girlfriend is going to come for 2 weeks. So we ain't going to never be alone with these babies. Right. We're going to get this, we're going to be getting so much sleep. And then it was like, oh, ain't nobody coming. Can't nobody come to the house.
Not up in here.
We're like, wait a minute, Jesus. We got these 2 babies, and it's only 2 of us here. This was not the plan.
Not at all, right?
No, and let me tell you, Shay, not at all.
You just tell me when it's cleared, I'll come.
Of course, because y'all was on the list. We was going to be calling. Come on, drive on here and stay for the weekend. Something, we going to bed. That's all. Because, see, that's how we did. We have a goddaughter, and when she was a newborn and all of those first years, we would just get her for the weekend so her parents could sleep. And then, I'm like.
Well, you did that for me with my son, who's now 15. So I know what you're talking about.
So it's we're like, oh, we going to be fine because everybody owe us. They're going to be coming. They're going to be like, come get this baby.
You're like, don't bring a gift. Just come. All we need is your time.
All I need is for you to look at this baby while I close my eyes.
I do not blame you.
So yeah, that's why I'm mad about COVID. I'm just like, this is all the new parents, I'm sure, going through this. My mama can't come and keep this baby while I go to bed.
Yes. You're just like, please let this a little bit of sleep. I know. Been
Yes.
there, done that, but you know what? What a true blessing you
It
have.
is. It is. I'm
Absolutely.
complaining, but I'm grateful.
Absolutely. Well, before we close out, would you like to give any special acknowledgments to anybody?
Um, to Shay, congratulations on your podcast.
Thank
I'm
you.
very proud of you.
Thank you very much.
I don't think so. No. Like I said, go to theblackversion.com. Hopefully we'll be up and running. As soon as the pandemic is over, we're gonna be doing shows.
I'm gonna
So
be there too. I'm
yeah.
gonna definitely be there. Well,
Thank
it goes without saying that you are just immensely talented, and I don't think that I'm biased because everybody else that has been around you says the same exact thing. I love how transparent and how conscious you are. Seriously, you're one of the most down to earth people that I know and that I'm blessed to have in my life. And I don't want to sound cliche, but to know you is to love you, Jordan. And
Oh,
I absolutely love you. I love the body of work that you do. I love what you bring to the table. I love the fact that, like you said, through no matter what the situation is, you can find something comedic that can heal. I feel like when you laugh, you heal. I'm sitting here. Every time I'm around you, my cheekbones are activated and they hurt when I'm done, but it's just amazing. And so I feel like also because you have blessed me by coming on my podcast, I have like about at least 2,000 extra cool points in my bag. And I really appreciate that. But most of all, thank you for what you bring to the stage. I mean, it's amazing. And to know that a lot of the shows that we love and that we look forward to seeing every week, you're behind that. So thank you for giving us something to look beyond this current state of affairs, if you will.
well, thank you so much, Cheryl. I really appreciate you having me on. This has been a lot of fun.
This has been awesome. And thank
You're
you. And
really
I
great.
look forward to coming to tapping you out so you can get some sleep.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes, in Jesus' name.
Amen.